girls growing up who were like the toppers of the class, the best people in sports. All of them were girls, which was really nice to grow up with that mindset, knowing that girls can do anything. And Kalpana Chawla was the first woman to become an astronaut from India.
What Elon Musk is doing, and even there are different companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Atlantic. Would you be willing to go to space and come back? What motivated you to get into hardware engineer, which is a very tough skill? It's almost like a hard work, right? Wow. With your advice, I think a lot of people are gonna start pulling apart electronic parts back in India and here.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, I have my Russian roommates' parents came to visit us and they gave me my name. My Russian name is Alana.
Then, what advice would you give to students who are currently looking for jobs and finding it hard to find internships in this job market?
We moved our entire life here to the US and like we're trying to make it here and trying to get feedback that you can't make it here. It's hard because then you're like, how will I pay my loans? How will anything happen?
So she has built so many beautiful PCB designs using earrings with LEDs, COVID masks with LEDs.
We're trying to create robots to pick strawberries in farms, which is like it's a thing that no one has done successfully.
Also managing on the side your personal life along with the visa issues being an immigrant. How challenging was it for you to do that?
There were more people who told me no than people who told me yes. So that was almost like a benefit for me. Like, I think in the end, it's mindset. Like some people, when people tell them you can't do something, they either get super determined and go out and do it. Some people shy away from it. How to learn is a very important skill that a lot of people are not taught how to do. And learning how to learn is a very core skill.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the TIP podcast, and we have with us an amazing person again. We have Ayesha Iftiqhar joining us from Colorado. Hi Ayesha.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we were colleagues back in Charlotte, and we were also in the same university at UNC Charlotte. And she's an amazing person. I wanted to have her on the podcast for a while. And we finally are digressing from the software engineering perspective. So we're going into different engineering streams. And she's part of the hardware engineering or electrical engineering with hardware perspective. So let's walk through some of her achievements and her career track. So she started her life in Mysore, and she went to engineering in Visvesvaraya Technological University in Karnataka. Later, after graduation, she joined UNC Charlotte. She came here for masters in electrical engineering. Then, in her master's engineering program, she got an internship opportunity at Checkpoint Systems, which was a company in Charlotte. Later, she went on to work for a short stint of 2 months in Resonant Circuit Labs, and then joined Diversity in 2016, which is where we met, and we were colleagues in the same team. So she worked there for 3.5 years almost, and later went on to join another company called as TTI in Greenville, South Carolina. She worked there for 2 years almost, and then later joined Tortuga AgTech, which is a company in Colorado. And she has been working with robots and playing around with it ever since. So that's her journey so far. Apart from this, she is also very interested in promoting STEM in women. She's a proud Steminist, and also she's a good skater, and she always likes to do a lot of new things, start her own projects and stuff. So we are glad to have you on the show, Ayesha.
Happy to be here.
So tell us something about your life starting back in Mysore, because most of my friends are from Mumbai side, right? And our engineering comes from that. How was it as a kid, being a curious kid that you are? How was it growing up in Mysore?
It was a lot of fun. Mysore is a very quiet city. I think a lot of people move to Mysore to go to Infosys, but I'm one of the few people who grew up there and like tried to stay away from Infosys. I had a good time. I went to a girls' school growing up, which was really cool because I was surrounded by all these amazing girls growing up who were like the toppers of the class, the best people in sports. All of them were girls, which was really nice to grow up with that mindset, knowing that girls can do anything. Um, I was, me and my best friends are like very not competitive, but we were like top three-ish in our class always. But I feel like I never studied. I would just study to like I was very interested in math and science. So I would like read because I was curious, but I would get bored in class. I would like annoy the teachers with questions until they would kick me out of class. So that would be my exit strategy. They would kick me out, and then I would just like walk and explore the class. And then in 10th, like me and my friends became like the class leaders or whatever, like for the school. And we like abused the power so much that they didn't give it to us again. They revoked it by the end of the year because we would just like say like a second standard teacher said to come to help, and we would just go sit on the terrace or something like that.
And
So the teachers were having a hard time to keep up with us for the most part.
that's fascinating. That's fascinating. And I can imagine how much of a terror you were in school, like doing all these notaristic, with your creative ideas. So how was it growing up in a household with, two more sisters, right? And how was the energy like in the household with your mom, dad, and three sisters?
Yeah, my sister and me, like our age difference is quite big. Like my elder sister is 10 years older than me, and my second sister is like 8 years. So they were very close in age. So I was always like the baby. So it felt like I had two sets of parents. Like I was more scared of my older sister than my mom sometimes. Uh, so it was like they would always kind of like watch me and make sure I don't get in trouble, but I was still like getting away with things. So it was fine.
Interesting, interesting. And like in our engineering journey, basically in our academic journey, we did our 10th and then we did our 11th, 12th, which was in Mumbai, we call it junior college. And then we had to decide the stream of engineering or any other career choice like doctor and stuff like that. And we had to give CET exam and then 12th. So how was it for you in Karnataka?
Yeah, it's the same. So we had 11th and 12th, which was not in our school. That was a separate school. And we had to, I don't know if you all had this, but we had to like all start to specialize already. So I'd already decided like I wanted to do like stay in science and math. And then we had like PCM, so physics, chemistry, math were like the core subjects, and then we could choose like computer science or biology, or electronics was one of the options. And like the electronics class was like 10 people versus computer science were like 50 or something like that. So I chose electronics pretty early on because I was always fascinated by physics, and that was the closest thing I could find to study physics. Oh yeah.
Wow, interesting. I mean, that's really fascinating. Did you aspire to be an electronics engineer from the get-go, or were there some events in your childhood that really inspired you in that field or in that direction?
Yeah, I liked physics a lot, and I liked space exploration a lot. And Kalpana Chawla was the first woman to become an astronaut from India. Actually, first Indian, I think, to go to space from NASA. So I heard her story and I was very inspired. I actually wanted to become an astronaut after that. And I thought that was really cool. And I was like asking my sister about it, and she was like, "Oh, all these astronauts have something called ham radio, which they used to communicate." And I wanted to talk to an astronaut. So I was like, "How do I learn to do that?" I was like in fifth or sixth standard.
Wow.
And both my sisters being older, they were doing engineering already, and they gave me like some big physics book saying like you have to study this and then you'll learn you'll get the pass the exam to do ham radio. So I didn't understand anything. I was like seeing that we're talking about waves and all that. So it stuck with me a little bit, but I didn't understand anything. So that kind of got me curious to learn more about it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, being an astronaut at age 5 is such a big dream to have, and you were bold enough to dream that big. Given a chance now with the technology that the way things are, what Elon Musk is doing, and even there are different companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Atlantic, would you be willing to go to space and come back within whatever time period they allow you to?
I don't know. That's the interesting thing about dreams, right? They change. Like
Mhm.
goals change, dreams change. Space exploration was one of the biggest aspiration for me growing up. But now I'm more interested in solving problems that are on Earth. I'm not as interested in like space anymore. So that's changed a little bit. So I don't think I'd be interested, at least knowing how much pollution space exploration creates. It's not for me anymore.
Absolutely makes sense. So, talking about your interests and getting into electronics, you joined the Vishweshwarya Technical University in Karnataka, right? How was it as a student exploring the field of engineering, getting into it like hands-on? Talk something about that, if you can.
Yeah. I always found studying easy in school up to 12th almost. But when I went to school, like when I went to engineering college, there was like a big shock because everything was exponentially harder. So I really struggled initially to keep up with engineering classes. And I felt like I put a lot of effort and I wasn't uh, understanding what was going on because it was taught in such a theoretical way. And I've learned now that that's not how I learn. That's not the method for me. So I struggled a lot, and I almost wanted to switch like my degree, which I'm so glad I didn't. Um, so it was a challenge to stick with it, but I was curious enough to try to understand things. So I kind of started teaching myself because that helped me more than what was being taught in class. So there were a few things that interested me, and I tried to learn on my own. That was very interesting. And then just collaborating with people that you didn't grow up with in school, you're like surrounded by the same people that you've seen your whole life, and this was like a whole new set of people that you have to adjust with and learn from. So that was a lot of fun. And I always like to keep busy, so I joined the magazine committee for some reason, even though I hate writing. And since I joined, I was like, I had to become chief editor. So I like went and became chief editor of that most unqualified person to get apply for the job. And then like, so I was doing that on the side, which was nice. Just to have another creative outlet. And my favorite thing of going to that school was the last project that we do at the end of the semester. We made this kind of like a robot for broom. Like we attached a brush that was like an autonomous cleaner robot. So that was a lot of fun to learn to do that. I felt like that was the first time I actually felt like I was learning engineering, just like testing and figuring things out. So that was fun.
That's amazing. The coincidence is this that even my final year project was a vacuum cleaner robot. So it's
Nice.
amazing how things coincide. But talking about your engineering, right? You said there were some challenges in your engineering, and there were a few things that our Indian academic system. I don't know if I should generalize it or not, but most of the things that I have heard from people on this podcast has been there is a lot of emphasis on the technical aspects or the theoretical aspects, right? And not much on the practical aspect. So for someone who is in engineering right now and wants to figure out how to acquire practical skills, what would your advice be for them?
Yeah, I don't know if we get like Adafruit Sparkfun kind of kits in India, but I know like that's been booming here in the US. So if you can get components, get hands-on components, like just build those circuits. That's how I finally started understanding how everything worked. Like if there's an amplifier circuit, like for the life of me could not figure out what it did. And then once I built it and like actually saw what was happening, I was like, it felt that it was so simple.
Correct, correct. So talk us something about that. Now that's your field, right? Hardware engineering, building PCBs, schematics. So these are some terms that people from non-engineering background might not understand. So what is a circuit? What is an amplifier? Can you talk through those basics for us?
Yeah, so we all use electronics, which is the best part, but unfortunately, all our electronics are hidden from us. So like most people don't realize what's going on. So it's just, so your screen is electronics, and then how do you turn on your screen? You need to control the brightness, you need to adjust what color it is. So all of that's done by these tiny switches, basically, that can turn on and off, but they can also modulate the signal to do specific things. So that if that's your output, like you need power So you're getting power through it, like a wall socket or like a battery. So you need to adjust that into um enough energy so your circuit doesn't or your screen doesn't burn out. So all those things are circuits, and it's everywhere. It's just like presented in a way that you don't know what's happening behind. But that's the best part too, because we have it everywhere. It's easy for anyone to take something apart and see what's going on.
Wow. With your advice, I think a lot of people are going to start pulling apart electronic parts back in India and here. Uh,
Yeah, do it.
that's nice. That's nice. So, I mean, most of the people, I think, go into software engineering, right? And then into some other streams. What motivated you to get into hardware engineering, which is a very tough skill? It's almost like a artwork, right? To make things work, especially wireless systems. What motivated you to get into that stream, especially in India, where there is not a lot of manufacturing in electronic circuits?
Yeah, for me, it was, I always knew I was a practical person. Like, I did a few software classes, which I really enjoyed. I like programming, but I knew at the end I wanted to make things. Like, I'm a maker by default. Like, I have to build things, I have to do things with my hands and be creative. So I knew this was the best way for me to do that. Like, this mechanical and civil engineering, which because it's so stagnant almost, it never appealed to me. This was kind of in between like software and pure hardware. So that's what was interesting for me. And even though it's not in a theoretical way, I think like my final project was like the best thing that I'd done. Like it was fun to see things come to life.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like coming from a Indian ecosystem and also being a woman, right? Were there any headwinds that you had to face, choosing engineering as a career, especially hardware engineering? And what kind of support system did you find in order to pursue this career?
Yeah, there were more people who told me no than people who told me yes. So that was almost like a benefit for me. Like, I think in the end, it's mindset. Like some people, when people tell them you can't do something, they either get super determined and go out and do it. Some people shy away from it. Like there are different ways. For me, it almost felt like the bar is already so low. Already everyone's expecting that I can't do something. Anything I do is a bonus. Like it's a surprise. So like it was easy for me to deal with it that way. So like I had teachers who would say things like in back in India that girls in engineering just come to find a boy to marry who's an engineer. So like listening to that, it's hard to stay motivated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was always that, but I always enjoyed doing what I did. So that helped. My parents were very chill like that. They didn't pressure me to do one thing or the other. They were always like, do what you want as long as you're doing it with all your heart. That's all that matters. Because they also knew that if they tell me to do something, I won't do that. So they just let me be. That helped. And then just having friends and a support system, that's always important.
That's really nice. I mean, that's why you are here, where you're, picking up new challenges, fighting your way through, creating whatever you feel is right, and paving your own path. So, then later on in your engineering, right, you decided to do masters. Was it always the plan, or what shifted in you to pursue that masters or get a higher degree?
Yeah, so both my sisters had already moved to do masters. They both are in software. We weren't super close like later as we grew up because they were much older. So we had like a little bit of gap and separation. So I knew that was an option. So like initially I didn't want to pursue it. I wanted to work. I always wanted to build something of my own. So I almost wanted to be an entrepreneur. And there were a few people in my college who were doing things, starting their business. I was trying to see what I can do, and I wanted to stay and try to do that. But I couldn't figure out how to do that. So around like third year of engineering, I was like, okay, maybe I need some more training and I need more practical training. That's why I got interested. And then I knew I didn't want to work for someone yet. So that was kind of the path.
That's nice. That's nice. And you might have given GRE, Toefl,
Mm.
and you might have applied to a lot of universities. Uh, how did you get into UNC Charlotte? And how was life like when you landed in US and figuring out your path as a student at UNC Charlotte?
So I was one of the few people who didn't take a gap. Like I gave my exams in the last year. So it was very chaotic to be doing like a final year project and then studying for GRE TOEFL. Like I remember I like went one day and I did back to back GRE TOEFL for some reason. Because I was like, I just want to get it over with. And then I know there were like a lot of WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups of people like trying to find roommates and doing all that. I didn't have time to do that and it just felt like too much work. So I was like, I'll figure it out. And I actually ended up finding a room through the university website. And like my roommates moving here, like it was a Russian girl, an American girl, and like someone from Saudi Arabia. So it was very like, I had no idea. I was just like jumping in this with like my whole whatever. Um, so that was very interesting. That was just moving here, not knowing it didn't hit me because everything was like just moving so fast. I was just like going one after the other. And I chose UNC Charlotte just because that was what was affordable for me. And it had a program that I was interested in. So I moved here. It didn't hit me. I think the first time it hit me that I moved away from home and I'm on my own was when I went to the apartment. So like the Triveni people, they picked me up and they dropped me off to the apartment and everyone was like, who are your roommates? I was like, I don't know, some people from somewhere in the world. They dropped me off and none of my roommates had moved in. So the apartment was empty. And I went and like the landlord, he let me in and he showed this is the room. I had no furniture. I just went in and I was like, I don't have anywhere to sleep. And he was like, oh, I'll get you a pillow. And he got me a pillow and a blanket because he was like, this girl has come without preparing anything. And I was sitting there and I was like, if something happens to me now, nobody will know. So that I feel like it was kind of scary. But then next day I like messaged all the groups and I was like, if anyone's going anywhere, I'll go. And this one group adopted me.
Nice. That's nice. That's an amazing story. And having a Russian roommate, I mean, not a lot of people have a Russian name. You have
Yeah.
a Russian name as well, right? Alana?
Yeah, I have my Russian roommate's parents came to visit us and they gave me my name. My Russian name is Alana.
That's that's nice. So, uh, navigating through that like master's journey, did you anticipate the challenges that you faced? Did you face any challenges first of all, and how did you overcome them? And what were the stories that you learned from them?
Yeah, I kind of, I think like there was like different classes that people were taking. Like if someone wanted embedded, there were like 4 or 5 classes that everyone was taking, or if they wanted power electronics, so those were like some of the common parts everyone was taking. I was kind of taking classes that I was finding interesting, so I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I would choose like classes that I was interested in, and like I kind of made my own path. So that was kind of challenging in its own way because no one else, I didn't have anyone to go to figure out. And some of the people who were trying to give me advice, it was hard to communicate that that's not what I want to do
Correct.
because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. So that was kind of interesting. And I really wanted to start working and get some hands-on experience. So like trying to find an internship to do that was very interesting. And just navigating like working in the US for the first time while like also studying, that was quite fun.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So now in India, you didn't have a job, right? You said you directly came to US, and then you were in a master's program when you were trying to apply for internships, probably. How was your first interview at a company? You applied and you had to talk about your skills and present yourself.
Yeah, it was just because I didn't have anything to show. It was more like class projects that I was trying to do. So one good thing was I tried to take like master's level classes, not graduate level classes for the most part, so, which were very project oriented. So it was easy to talk about the projects that I did. But like the first few interviews were like I was applying to various types of jobs to figure out what I wanted to do. And they to hear like that they were not interested in my project, but I had to still like keep talking about it as if it was interesting. So that was kind of challenging. But it was also helpful because I started interviewing very early on for the summer internship. So trying to notice what skills everyone was looking for and trying to teach that to myself. One of the benefit of being in a university is that we have a bunch of free softwares that we can use that are usually expensive. So if I would see MATLAB, for example, was in a lot of jobs I was seeing, like I would spend a long weekend or something teaching myself MATLAB so I could talk about it and tell that I know how to do that. So that was interesting. It was like a very cyclical process of like interviewing, seeing where my gaps were, like going and teaching myself, then applying to the next one.
And the process that you described, applying and then getting some feedback, maybe some was, implied feedback, something were missing, and you had to figure it out on your own, the gaps, and then figure out the gaps and work towards filling those gaps, right? It's not easy process. Like, it's facing a lot of failures through interviews and then having a self-reflection period. Uh, how how was it for you? Figuring that out? And then what advice would you give to students who are currently looking for jobs and finding internships, finding it hard to find internships in this job market?
One thing I would advise was I would say like apply like everywhere and don't take it to your heart. If something's not going through, just treat it as a learning process. Ask for feedback every time, like follow up every time. It's a process. But I think the biggest thing is like most people disqualify themselves even before applying. Like it's their job to disqualify you. You don't have to disqualify yourself. Like, what's the point? I think because our goal is to get a job eventually, right? When we're in our masters, because we moved our entire life here to the US and like we're trying to make it here and trying to get feedback that you can't make it here is hard because then you're like, how will I pay my loans? How will anything happen? So that part was stressful. I think I have to tell myself repeatedly that it's okay if I don't get it because I was trying to come up with backup plans. I was trying to talk to professors, other professors to see if they had any work in the summer. So I just had like multiple strategies going on. I had a few different types of jobs I was applying to, and I was trying to apply for jobs because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do as well. Um, so there were like two or three categories I was applying to, as well as talking to different professors, not just electrical professors. There was a professor in mechanical department who was doing more mechatronics work. So I was talking to him as well to try to get on his research team for the summer. And if none of that was working, my other plan was like to get a job at the student union to have somewhat of an income in the summer and like try to work on skills on my own for the summer. So having those backup plans help.
Oh, that's really nice. And coming up with those backup plans all by yourself was must have been a challenging feat. And you got the best result out of it, right? You had those strategies in place, and then you got the internship that you acquired in the summer. So, talking about internship and the work that you do, how is it being a hardware engineer? What is it exactly that you do in your role?
Yeah, it's shifted a little bit over time too, which is what's exciting. So when my first internship at Checkpoint, they made like tiny devices that are retail devices for security, so people can't steal things and walk away. So there was a lot of like RF stuff in there, like wireless technology. So my first job as the intern was just testing out products. So I was working with an electrical engineer who was designing it, and he would give me the final product, and I would have to figure out how to test every part of it. So that was nice to learn design processes that way, and just figuring out how a product is made in a company. While I was learning that, I realized that I need to learn to design PCBs, which is something that's not taught in colleges, but it's such a core skill for electrical engineering. So I really wanted to learn that, and I got a license for Altium for a month, which was free for a month. And then I found YouTube videos and I started teaching myself. And then I got my second internship saying like, I'm learning this skill, like, can I work here? And since no one else was doing it, it gave me an upper hand. And they gave me that internship for 2 months where I actually got to use Altium.
Wow.
Uh, So it was like a very like step-by-step process. And then finally, like when I joined Diversity, I had like I was probably one of the few people who could say that I've designed something in Altium at an internship and had this experience. So that gave me an upper hand already. And then at work, some of the people who I'd worked with at the internship ended up working in that company. So they already knew what my work ethic was and like how I would operate. So that helped. So it's like every opportunity is like a networking opportunity and a learning opportunity. So leveraging that helps. Um, and then at Diversity, it was a lot of like legacy design stuff. So that was more like learning how the designs were done and incorporating and like updating designs. That was kind of the work. And then designing test fixtures was the work. And then I started learning firmware there, which was like something new that I was trying to learn. And then I leveraged that into my next job of where I got to write firmware, and then I got to do motor design and battery design. So I got those skills, and then that I translated into the robotics job.
Wow, wow, that's such a journey, right? Like trying to figure out one skill and then getting an expertise in that, and then stacking them up with different skills and coupling it with networking with your colleagues and stuff like that. That's really impressive. So talking, so talking about skills that you told that you had to learn all by yourself. How important is it, as an engineer or as any professional for that matter, to teach yourself skills and figuring out what you exactly want?
I think it's very important as a student, as an engineer, as anything, because it gives you control of your journey and your career a little bit. You're not tied to what your professor is teaching or what your boss or your manager is trying to give you as work. If you know what you want to do, or if you're just generally curious, you can sit and learn things and figure it out, and you can build things on your own, and then you have control of the direction you want to go in your career. So I think it's a very core skill. Like how to learn is a very important skill that a lot of people are not taught how to do, and learning how to learn is a very core skill just to be an engineer or any profession out. Imagine.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So talking about skills and talking about the hardware skills, if someone is just trying to get started into hardware engineering, who has no idea about engineering or just trying to figure out how these PCB circuits work and how to design one, what would your advice be on how to get started on that?
Doing projects, I think, is the best way to start. So just think of something simple, like if you want to blink an LED. So that's one way. You can just make a circuit, blink an LED, try to figure out different ways you can blink an LED. You can do it through analog circuits. You can use microcontrollers to do it. Just see what different types of LEDs they are. Like all those things, like even the simplest things can be done in so many ways. So if you just need to start. You can then breadboard it. Then you can solder it onto like a perforated board, and then you can figure out how to design a PCB. And then in the PCB, you can do all sorts of like creative things. So it's just getting started. Just start playing with it.
And the skills that you have acquired allow you to develop so many beautiful things, right? I mean, if you're a viewer and you want to see what all you can build, you can visit Ayesha's page on Instagram. She has built so many beautiful PCB designs using earrings with LEDs, COVID masks with LEDs, and which would sense if a person is too close, and then that would light up saying a frowny red LED, versus if you are at the same distance, it would give you a green smile. So I mean, those creative avenues open up when you have certain level of expertise and skills, and you just get started with simple things, and then you don't have to build a rocket on the first day. But as you learn, as you go along, you get interested, and you build on top of one another, and you reach a stage where you can build almost anything. And that's how anyone gets started in as a professional career. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, Aisha.
Yeah, and I have to ask, the projects came before like the expertise for me at least. Like a lot of times I would deal with imposter syndrome. So that was a way, like a healthy channel for me while making projects, because I would like it was a low stress effort for me to do. because it's not at a job where I have to do it perfectly or someone was watching me or someone was depending on me. So having this, like my projects to work on home and play around with, it gave me a way to gain skills in a fun way that was not stressful, that helped me with my job.
Wow, that's such an important topic, right? You touched upon imposter syndrome, and I'm pretty sure there are other soft skills that one has to acquire in your career which are not taught in the university. For someone who is trying to pave their own path in a career, what would your advice be on what skills, soft skills, one should acquire in their journey and how to acquire them?
Yeah, I think the most important skill is like know yourself, know like your strengths and weaknesses, and like that requires a lot of like reflection and like a little bit of like alone time to figure out who you are and what your strengths and weaknesses are, because that's so valuable. When you're like your best self and you're working on things that actually interest you, you can do so many amazing things. Versus if you're trying to adjust for someone else, it's you're wasting all your energy in doing that. And then just like treating everything as a kind of a resource, like anyone you talk to, anything you read, or any where you go. There's just so much to grasp from that. There are interesting conversations from which you can learn. If you look at a cool design, you can see how it's done and like try to incorporate that. Just like being open and curious is like very important.
That's really amazing. I mean, the point that you made about being curious, trying to figure out what you exactly want is not something that a lot of people do in general. And I mean, that is such an important skill, first of all. And also, when you are going through that journey, you're not actually achieving someone else's goal that is set out for you. You are actually trying to figure out what your goals are, and achieving that gives you more fulfillment than achieving someone else's goal that someone else, like a family or a society, has set out for you. So that's such an important thing. So talking about post, post diversity, uh, you must have worked under different managers, different personalities as a team member. How was it? What did you learn from each role, and how did it help you grow in as an electrical engineer?
Yeah, diversity was like a very, almost like a little family. We all were very close. It was a smaller company, which was nice in its own way. As someone starting, we got to learn a lot. And then my next job at Electronic, I worked for Ryobi. If people don't know, Ryobi is like a big company that makes a lot of power tools like drills and everywhere from drills to like lawnmowers and stuff. So it's a big consumer electronics company. So that was like a whole different experience because things moved at a faster pace. It was very bureaucratic. There were like so many level of managers I had above me. So like having my work documented in a very good way, making presentations for ideas, testing, sharing. I felt like I was held at a higher standard or like was more accountable for everything I was doing. So that was very nice. That was great for growth and learning. Yeah, that helped me to think more as a senior engineer than like depending on someone to give me guidance versus like for me to be in control of my design and dictating what needs to be done for a product. So that was very interesting. And then my next job, my most recent job was working at a startup, which was like a whole different scene. Everything's moving so fast, priorities are changing, and we're trying to do an impossible idea almost. Like we're trying to create robots to pick strawberries in farms, which is like it's a thing that no one has done successfully. So to be able to be on that team and like being okay with the fact that this can be hugely successful or fail, and like when you make mistakes to like fix it and own up to it and like work in a collaborative way on these things. Like I've gone to farms like strawberry farms and like fixed robots like in middle of the field while it's broken down. Like it's such a different world.
That's so exciting as well as challenging, because there are so many unknowns working for a startup, and something as exciting as a strawberry picking robot is, I'm pretty sure it must have excited you as well going into that. So, I mean, culminating all these experiences and then also managing on the side your personal life along with the visa issues being an immigrant, how was it? How challenging was it for you to do that while you were tackling with so many challenges at work?
Yeah, I've been good, even though my hobbies are somewhat related to electronics still, because I make electronics project. Have have very good boundaries between work and my personal life, which was very important. And having other hobbies, like for my mental health, was very important. I'm someone who takes my vacation. I don't believe in like overworking. Like I want to work and like do a good job when I'm at work, but I also want to take like break and recharge myself. So that was very important. Visa was one thing that I was always on top of. Uh, it was like when you are in control of everything and keeping in touch of everything, it's a little less stressful. At least that's how I operate. And then also knowing if something doesn't work out, there are other options out there in the world. Like it's not the end of the world. Like if you have confidence in your skills, like nothing else matters.
That's such an important takeaway. I mean, your geographic location doesn't actually dictate what your skills are, right? And no one can take away your skills. So I think that emphasis on building your skills help us get the confidence where wherever you go in the world, you are going to be valued for your skill set, and you're gonna have a new challenge. So not stressing about it, but at the same time being on top of it is such an important takeaway. So talking about your hobbies, right? You are into promoting STEM for women, and you give a lot of conferences. You went to promote to schools. How exciting it is for talking about these things in schools and colleges and promoting STEM in women. Tell us something more about that.
Yeah, so my whole journey into engineering was because I saw a role model who looked kind of like me. So I know the power of role models. Like, it's so important. So it's always exciting to go in. And it's so easy to talk to kids. It's easier than talking to adults sometimes because they get excited about everything. So like you show robot videos and like shiny LEDs, they're already hooked. Like it's not that hard to get them excited, but they don't get exposed to it, which is the sad part. So it almost is like a give and take. Like it's exciting for me to go and show all these cool things that kids can do. It's an option for them to have, especially girls who are usually not told that they can do that. And then like I get energy back from that too, because sometimes like when you're doing the same thing, like you get like in a zone where like you forget how exciting it is. So when you show someone your work, when they get excited, you get excited with them, and it's like recharging for you and gives you purpose to keep doing things that you're doing.
Wow, that's so motivating, man. I'm pretty sure a lot of kids looking up or just following your seminars would get excited and probably choose this field as a career, and that would make fulfilling experience for you. So I'm glad you're doing that, and I'm happy that you're getting so much positive energy out of it.
Yeah, I hope they do. And even if they don't, it's nice for them to know that they have an option, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's nice. That's nice. So, talking about your other skill, how did you take up skating as a exciting thing? And I've seen so many of your videos where you're actually trying new stuff, sometimes falling, and then getting back up and trying another new stunt on skating. So, what made you choose that as a hobby?
There's more falling than actual skating. It just doesn't get recorded on the camera. Um, but so when I moved to Colorado and I started my job at Toefl, they have a stipend that they give for wellness. So you can use it like for therapy, like for massages, like whatever helps your mental health. And a lot of people here use for skiing because that's very popular in Colorado. I tried skiing. It wasn't for me. I don't like being cold. So I was like, I decided that wasn't for me, but I saw someone skating on the road once and I was like, maybe I can try that. So I bought skates with that stipend and I started going just outside my apartment complex where everything was flat. I did that a few times, then I got bored. So I was like, what do I do next? And I was driving and I saw a skate park. So skate parks have ramps and like bowls and all these like scary features. So I wanted to go learn that. And then like every day before work, like I would go and like learn something new, which was very energizing because I'd start the morning doing something very scary. So like to stand there on top of a half pipe and like trusting myself to go down that and not
Wow.
die. And then like when I accomplished, I felt like my day already had like such a big whatever spike.
Let's start. Yeah.
Yeah, I had start. So it would like the rest of the day felt like easier to take on almost.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, if you guys want to watch those videos, do check out her Instagram channel. I'll add her link to the description. It's amazing. I mean, talking about role models, you mentioned Kalpana Chawla. You also had two elder siblings. You had your mom to look up to. How important was it growing up to look up to role models, and who were your role models apart from these people, and what did you learn from these people?
Yeah, I mean, those are all probably my top most role models growing up. Both my sisters were engineers, and they were also like very creative and amazing women. And my mom worked like my whole childhood. Like she still works. She's supposed to be retired, but she still works because she's such a workaholic. So like seeing that strong work ethic in the women around me was very important for me. And like my mom also like never took crap from anyone. Like she was the manager of a bank in like a village, which like comes with so much harassment as well as like to stand there and like stand her ground and like to do all that. So that was really cool to do that. Like my mom would lead strikes like for equal pay in banks, which was like a picture came on like the front page of the newspaper, and I remember she's like sitting there when I was a kid, which was like really cool. And she still like is very active to get pensions to people and like all those kind of things. So that was really neat.
Oh, that's really nice. I mean, having those strong women around you inspire you to dream big. And I'm pretty sure your journey, whoever is listening, if there is a girl back in India listening to this journey, I'm hoping that she gets excited and motivated from your journey and tries to trailblaze her own path and pave her career and shine the light that you are sharing with us. Thank you so much, Aisha, for sharing so much of your journey, your stories. I'm pretty sure it has inspired a lot of people. Last question. I'm pretty sure if I don't ask this question, a lot of people will hate me for it.
No.
When are you calling me for eating biryani?
Biryani. Whenever you want. I haven't found good biryani in Colorado yet, so I don't
You
know.
have to make one, or I have your mom
Make one.
share a recipe or something.
Yeah. Next time my mom comes, you can come visit. We can do a hike and a biryani.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Aisha, for sharing so many wonderful stories with us. If you guys want to get in touch with Aisha, I'll add her LinkedIn profile below. Do get in touch with us. If you have any comments on this podcast, let us know on the comment section. And if you have any resume you want to get reviewed or get some help on referrals and stuff like that, visit our website at theindianperspectives.com. And that's it from our side. Any parting message, Aisha, for viewers watching this?
Stay curious.
Amazing, amazing. That's a short and sweet message. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. Until next time, catch up with you guys soon. Bye.